So if you look at this, you can see that not only was the earth formed in darkness until God said let there be light, so are children, so are babies. Babies are formed in darkness. Whenever the seed hits the fertilization of the woman, it makes a cell, and that cell divides into makes a human being. And around that cell is this protoplasm, whatever you want to call it. Later, there is a placenta. And in the placenta is water. Why? Because the mother said, my water is broken. That means the water that is around the baby has broken, and for it's time to deliver the baby. So it's the same thing. You see womb here. The first three letters of womb is W-O-M. And where do you have a womb but in a woman? You see a baby. Baby means babble, means blah, 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 carries on, and it has no sense of speech or language yet. And then you got earth here, as if when the earth is formed. What is the first three letters of earth? E-A-R. Ear. Okay? So whenever a baby forms, how do you think a baby forms? It is without form and void, just like the earth. So what makes it into a baby? God, the Spirit of God. I meant to draw the hand over here too. God forms the baby in the womb. Why? Because you can look at Psalm 90, verse 2, and there's other verses there. He formed the earth, and he formed the baby in the womb. He formed Job in the womb. God formed them in the womb. Job 1 through 42. And when you look at Ezekiel, you can see not only that, but what do babies have? Babies have belly buttons. They have navels. Some versions of the Bible say the navel of the earth is Jerusalem. But in Ezekiel 5 and 16:4, it's referring to Jerusalem is in the midst of the nations, is in the middle of the nations, in the center of the nations. And if you look on a map, even right there, actually, look over here. Israel's right there. It's pretty much the middle of the earth. There's Israel right there. And so, in order for this thing to form, which is in darkness, which is in the womb, this is the womb, which is in a woman, you have to have something to form it. You have to have body heat. You have to have God, the perfect design of God, to form it. Just like with this, with earth. And we see in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, 2, and 3, that in the beginning, God created the heaven, which was around it, and the earth. Right? But the earth was without form. It means it was not formed as the earth we have it now, and void. Just like the baby, the sperm and the egg creates this cell. It was without form. When we were ourselves, put it on me.
An embryo.
We were embryos, zygotes, embryos.
Like that small.
Very small, and we were without form. We were formed, so we would have purpose.
We used to be little circle things.
Okay, what did I say? And so it's the same thing with the earth. The earth had to be formed, and it said in the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So I put it as like a hands of God moving upon the face of the waters instead of a figure walking around. And it says, it talked about the face of the deep, the darkness of the deep, darkness of the deep. Then God moved in the face of the waters, and he said, in verse 3, he says, let there be light. And so there was some kind of thing in here that lit, and there was light. Okay?
I think it's starburst.
Wait a minute. And so what you got now is you got solidarity, you got condensing and everything else. You got a solid mass, things becoming solid. You got waters coming down into the cracks and crevices of the earth, and then that would be locked in, and that's to call it, there's other rock down in there too, and that's called foundations of the world, which would what would be the foundations of the world. And some of the water from that light evidently was evaporated and it went up. So then you got dry land appearing and things like that. Right there. So you got water in the groundwater and everything, and you got pieces of the earth. And you got water above, which was called the firmament, which would be the heaven. Can you see it real good?
Yeah.
It says firm. Just like the foundations of the earth were the things that hold it, what on the civilization that would come up. Now, wait a minute, let me get this, let me talk. Now, the same thing with this one. Come over here with this one. Now, let's erase this. And let's do the same kind of thing. But this time, we're going to make a baby.
Yay, babies!
We're going to have a placenta, and we're going to have water in the middle. And then in that, we're going to have a navel.
Maybe I should have drew it.
We're going to make the baby. And so I know it's a lopsided head. And there's the umbilical cord right there. You suck this dump. So see, you got the water.
That looks very good.
You got the baby here in the water. So babies are born out of water. So the earth was born out of water. So if you want to look up Psalm 90 verse 2, Ezekiel 5:5, Ezekiel 16:4, John 3:5, John 5:6-8. And God's outside of time. The earth is his footstool. What we have is we have the Spirit of God forming the earth just as he...
Wolf.
So it's basically this. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Chicken.
Chicken. But in this case, the earth came first. And out of the earth came man.
No,
And
man came children.
Out of a woman came baby embryos. And they were formed in the same way that the earth was formed, very similarly. That the earth was formed in a black darkness called space. Right?
Some people believe that space was always there, but
Right. Well,
when it said, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, that means space.
and outside of this space is a black darkness, but even still, you get the sun, the moon, the stars, and even further out you go. You
The
get
universe.
The stars. But a baby was formed in darkness. It was void until God gave it purpose, me and you, purpose, that is to glorify Him, exalt His name. Everything that we do as children of God, to give Him glory in all things, and for Him to take joy in us as we praise His name. We were made in His image, so not in the image of a zygote, not in the image of His embryo, but in His image. So just again, if you want to look at more passages concerning it, Psalm 90 verse 2, Ezekiel 5:5, Ezekiel 16:4, John 3:5, 1 John 5:6-8.
Right there.
But again, wait a minute, hold on. But again, go back to this.
The space.
The earth was formed out of the waters, just like the baby is formed. It was formed in the waters and came out of the waters. Just like the baby is formed in the waters and came out of the water. Same effect. Before it was formed, it was a void. It had no form, it was void. That means it was not ready yet, it was not prepared yet to be what God designed it to be. In this case, we got the planet Earth. In this case, we got you and me. And of course,
Chicken or the egg.
animals and all that other stuff. So, all of us are born in darkness, created in darkness, until God said, let there be light, which causes some kind of fusion. The waters of the great deep. Some of this water, let me get this other marker here. Some of this water went up into the firmament, which was the heaven. And at a later point in time, this is what happened. Make that the earth.
Big, big, boom, boom.
Okay, what happened was during the flood, that thing which was above came crashing down.
Precipitation.
You know, it was just big old, and that was, some of it froze at the top, some of it froze at the bottom. That's, put it on me, that's where you get your North Pole and your South Pole, because that's where the sun touches least. And now, but you got more ice here because that's the way of the revolution of the universe and not the planet. Geocentrism. That's what I think. That's just my opinion. But of course,
I believe
you got the Earth and everything here as it was. Then what happened was some kind of constriction was going on here, and the waters that were underground, these underground chambers, burst out
whoosh.
like so. And with everything coming down from the firmament of the waters that went up and during the creation, it all came back down on the earth. And some of those waters ejected, and you got the moon over here, which was looking like this. Some of it ejected and hit the moon. And you got like little craters on the moon.
Oh, cool.
And what you got, these little comets, which is dirt and ice, is probably ejected from the earth, the mid-Atlantic ridges and stuff like that. Your let's see here, your these plate tectonics. That's what calls that. Some kind of geological force, like Old Faithful, like Michael said earlier. Old Faithful, and it caused such tremendous force that it ejected water and dirt out into space. It froze, and some of it became comets, evidently, and some of it hit the moon, some of it even hit Mars, and there's even this asteroid belt. That's probably pieces of the earth that came from underground. But that's why if you read the thing with Lazarus and the rich man, there's gulfs in there, there's water, there's fire, but the foundations of the great deep, or the foundations that hold the earth up, that's the chambers of water. Let's just say this is the earth. Let's just say that's the moon.
Looks like Mars.
Well, anyway,
Don't matter.
Whenever the fountains of the great deep burst forth, it kind of went like that, kind of like a shotgun, and it hit the moon like that. Because, you feel me? Because if it was an asteroid or a meteorite that big going to hit the moon, you would think it would come around. You wouldn't think it'd come around and hit the moon like that. You wouldn't think an asteroid or meteor come around and hit the moon straight on like that without coming and hitting the Earth first. So it couldn't have done that. So this is evidently what had happened, that whenever the fountains of the great deep burst out forth, it hit the moon straight on. And the stuff, being the moon is like this, and has 1/6 of Earth's gravity, whenever it hit it like that, these ice and boulders or whatever else, probably more likely ice, frozen ice, because it hit space from the Earth, it did like this because the gravity was weaker. And that's why there were small craters on the back side of the moon and large craters on the face of the moon. That's the part we see. Small craters here, big craters here. Just like the Earth was formed in the darkness, so we're babies, human beings. I was, you were, Seth was. We're all formed in darkness by God, and we were made to have a purpose and not to be void. So when it comes to the thing of people saying, well, yeah, there was darkness there and all that stuff, well, we're all born in darkness. We're born in darkness and we come into light. We break forth from the waters as the earth did, and we come into the light of day. So I hope that helps a little bit. And
Helps
just to
me.
give you an overview, you got a cell and you got the earth. It's very similar stuff. God formed a cell, that's you and me, the embryo, or zygote, whatever you call it. Embryo,
This one.
Baby, whatever, baby. That's you and me. He formed us with his hands. And we were formed in darkness by his hands. And one day we would come out into the light as barely formed little babies. Whenever we're formed correctly, then
Babies.
we're born into the light. You know. And of course this was a womb. Now I'm not saying that around heaven, earth was a womb at the time, but it could have been. But God reached into the womb and he formed the earth that was void,
But you do believe.
formless, and without form, and void. God is the one that formed it. So when he said, let there be light, those things that were formless and void, without form and void, had a form, and it had a purpose. It was no longer a void. So it became the earth we know it, and some of the waters came down, and the waters went up above the earth. And then that's green land, dry land appeared in certain places, and the herbs. And the Lord put the animals where they're supposed to be, the fowl of the air, and the beasts of the animals of the sea, things like that. So the same thing with us. We were formed with arms, legs. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see if I draw it again. I can't draw it again, but anyway. Arms, legs. We were given purpose and form with sucking our thumb even. And
Seriously?
we were given a navel that we would derive the nutrients and the oxygen from the placenta or the water, and it would come into the navel, and then it would come into the embryo of the baby. And the same thing here. The water testifies as a witness, just as it says in 1 John, what did I have there first? Anyway.
5, 6.
5 and 6.
Okay.
So, there we go.
But you do believe that in the creation of Earth, God had it underwater.
Yeah.
That's kind of like being in the womb.
Yeah, it's being born in the water. It's being like a baby born in the water. And that's the thing about it too. When a baby's born out of water, you put him back in the water, it's no big deal to him. He can swim in water because that was his natural surroundings. It was
Habitat.
warm, it was cozy, it was dark, and there was no light. You ever wake up in the morning sometime and the light's like, I'm buying you? You know?
We're used to being in the dark.
Babies were formed in the mother's womb, just like the earth was formed by God.
That's probably why they cry
And
when they
given a
come out.
purpose. Okay, so look it up.